So then, in addition to the regs, there's a lot of pieces that have to be put together in order to open a room. And, some of them, there's the budget, there's the vendors, there's the staff. Like what's been your experience with this stuff so far in setting up in order to be able to open a poker room?
Well, for starters, there are a lot of stuff is readily available to anyone that wants to buy it. And then there are certain things that are not readily available because they're involved in the gaming industry. Most of the items that are involved in the gaming industry, the companies already know that when they go into a new state, they're going to have some compliance issues that they have to work out. For example, if you want an automatic shuffler, okay, you'd think I could just buy a shuffler and be done with it. But that's not necessarily true. These shufflers have to conform to certain standards. They have to pass certain tests. There are industry standards on the tests that they have to pass, and there's certain certifications that they have to have. And then the question is, does your state recognize those certifications or not? And if they don't recognize the certifications, like, for example, Virginia doesn't have, this is one of the things that was kind of open, like, oh, well, shufflers, what do we do about shufflers? Well, let's see what other states have done. And let's look into what other states have done for compliance in these matters. And then we start to try to adopt those principles within the regulations. It's strange that, you'd have a shuffler that's available in New Jersey or available in Atlantic City or in Vegas, no problem. You come into Virginia, it's like, wait a minute. We can't sell to you guys because we don't have compliance in Virginia. It's like, wait a minute, we don't even really have a shuffler compliance set of rules. So it's one of the hurdles that we had to jump over. We had to talk to get a lawyer involved and get their compliance person involved. We talk to the attorney generals and the regulatory people, and we start to talk and get them talking so that we can have compliance so that we can buy shufflers in the state of Virginia. And
so here I am asking you what the pieces are to open a poker room. And you're like, listen, before I can even answer that, I want you to understand for one piece how hard it is in a state where it's all brand new, basically, right? And for anyone that doesn't know, as Rich mentioned, the shuffle machines go through very, very specific testing. Because imagine if they didn't, right? If there wasn't math testing where they verify that these things are fair and random and all that stuff, you could easily program a shuffler to do things that you wouldn't want in the industry. And in a previous live stream, I was interviewing magicians, right, where they were trying to do a hand shuffle and they were able to keep it in order. And to me and to a lot of people that watched it looked pretty clean. And so, the shuffle machines are no different, right? You don't want any company to be able to manipulate anything. So I totally get that. And at the same time, oh boy, what a lot of work that is.
We could, if you want to, I could expand on shufflers a little bit here since we're on them.
Sure.
Fantastic. I love the idea of the automatic shuffler. We've chosen to go with Scientific Gaming as the supplier, and the shuffler is called the Deckmate 2. And this is essentially top of the line shuffler that they offer in the industry. You'll find this same shuffler in virtually every casino in Vegas and Atlantic City. It is a shuffler that it can shuffle a deck in 25 seconds or less. The shuffle includes a optical verification of every single card in the deck. So it verifies every single card, suit and rank. And if there's a discrepancy, meaning there's a card that doesn't exist that should, or an extra card that exists that shouldn't, there's a separate, it's like a little, like a little phone almost that's built into the table that's part of the shuffler. The shuffler is actually separate. I don't have the sample of the shuffler in front of me, but the shuffler's, about this big with a lid that opens up, and they drop the deck in, it shuffles, goes down in a little bucket, shuffles, comes back up on the other side, flap opens up, they pull it out. But there's also one of these. And on this thing, it'll say minus, meaning it's not there. Ace of spades, 3 of diamonds, 5 of clubs. You can pull these cards. I watched the rep do this. He pulled a card out, 5 of diamonds, sent it through the shuffler. 25 seconds later, it popped up with an error, and it said negative 5 of diamonds. It was amazing. And
yeah, those things are awesome.
It's amazing. And the other thing, to your point of, how you have to, if it didn't go through the testing and it wasn't certified, These shufflers can not only randomize things and tell you what's missing, it can also put things in order. And it puts it in the order. The only kind of order that they have it put in is deck order. So at the end of the night, it can go ace through king, ace through king, ace through king by the suit. But if you do that, it's like a big notification. You can't even get to the cards without interacting with it in a completely different way, so that the dealer knows, oh, this is a shuffled deck, properly.
Listen, I love the idea. What's happening right now is beautiful, because you are demonstrating that it takes more specific knowledge in order to do this job than it does to be, say, a dealer, right? Like for true poker dealer right here, right? I don't need to know how the thing works. I don't need to know that stuff. I just need to know how to use it, Right. But in order to do your side of it, there's so much stuff there. And I've seen the screens that came up. The most recent place I dealt at didn't have the LED screen that goes with it, and I've seen it as a player. And anyone that plays, they see deck go in, deck come out, right? Like it's sort of that simple.
The largest competitor was another company that basically takes the deck and weighs the deck and can determine based on that weight whether there's 52 cards or not. So that's pretty good. Verify the deck for the most part, right? But if there's a card missing, they'll know it. If there's an extra card, they'll know it. But they won't know if there's two of the same card and someone actually replaced the card. So it doesn't have the same quality of verification. It doesn't come with the same price tag either. But we felt it was necessary to go with the very best that we could. And so we went with the DeckMate 2s.
So how many did you look at? Like for ordering shufflers, how many did you look at?
You mean different types of shufflers?
Like what's involved in the process of doing the job,
Well, you're doing a lot of Googling for start, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing. Let me back up and maybe say this. It's one thing if we were opening an MGM casino here in Richmond, right? MGM has opened, dozens of casinos around the world. They have a science of this. They have a supplier already for shufflers. They can just say, give me 10 more shufflers, give me 500 decks of cards. I want chips. Order, done. I spent 3 months trying to get in touch with the largest supplier to casinos. I'm not going to mention names, but I spent 3 months trying to get in touch with them. Couldn't get a call back. Got through their phone tree. Never could, left messages. Finally, after 3 months, got in touch with a rep. He was great on the phone. He said, I said, look, we have to make a decision on these chips in the next week. Can you please send me your samples out, like as soon as possible? He says, I'll send them out. You'll get them by Monday. If you don't get them, then call me Tuesday, whatever. Tuesday comes, I don't have them. I'm calling them. I'm leaving them messages. And then Thursday he calls me back and goes, oh, sorry, man, I forgot to send them. And I'm like, I don't know if you'd have done that with MGM. I don't know. It's a little hard to get started, And so all the things that would come naturally for an MGM, they could just literally just say, okay, let's put another card room in motion. We have to then, we have to go through compliance issues. We have to sourcing, which is standard for any business. I'm not saying it's any harder than opening up any other business, because every business has to source their supplies. And so we're just sourcing supplies. So there's a lot of Googling involved. There's reaching out to other people in the industry, like Mark. Mark is one of the people I reached out to in the industry. We're going to probably talk about that in a little bit, and what it takes to get dealers into Virginia. Yet another series of challenges.
Yeah, that's on my list for sure. Well, just sticking to this topic for a second, although I'm sort of like getting pulled, but sticking to this topic. So you had to not only, it's not as simple as, well, which shuffler do I want? They're not just on this like tray for you to pick one. It's how do I even get through to the vendors? How do I figure out what the industry standard is? How do I, and you've done this with chips and shufflers and tables and, yeah, like do you have any story about picking out a poker table that you could share, or picking out poker chips?
I got there are stories on everything. For starters, the shuffler, it's like, talking to the rep at SG Gaming, and he was a fantastic guy, and I really like him. But probably the first call we had was like, he's like, what? Virginia? You're opening in Virginia? What are we going to do with Virginia? But fortunately, he had a meeting. He's up in New Jersey, came down to go visit MGM National Harbor, and said, I'm coming down on Thursday. How about after I visit with him, I'll come and visit you. We're like, please. And we made that connection. And ever since then, he has helped the ball rolling. But even he had to go back to his people and say, hey, guys, come on. I got Virginia waiting. Virginia wants these shufflers. Can we sell them or not? You know, and that took 2 months, 2 months. Chips. Chips are tough. Chips are really hard.
We got the question, who did you get your chips from? This is from a member, Greg, Greg, I always appreciate your support. So I'm putting this up here.
I see it. Yeah, we ended up ordering our chips from Icon Manufacturing. We looked at several. We looked at, of course, there's TCS John Huxley, and there's GPI, there's Icon, there's Matsui. There's several chip manufacturers out there. We looked at all of them that we could get our hands on and that we could get samples of, etc. In the end, we ended up making a choice based on availability. Some of these chips are manufactured overseas. Like, I'm not going to get into names of which ones. Some of them are manufactured in China or Korea. And in order to get them back to the States, you're looking at significant fees and significant delays. They can't just put them on FedEx and overnight. I mean, chips are heavy. And when you're buying, you have to buy tournament chips, you have to buy cash chips. So we're looking at, buying both styles of chips. And it adds up to a lot of weight. And so you're looking at significant costs bringing them back. That's one thing. Number two, if they say, well, we don't have availability to even start making them for 2 months, and even then it's another month and a half delay till we get them to you. That's only getting them into the States, and they have to go through customs and this and that. We'll get them to you in 4 months. And I had quotes like that, and I had to turn those down. We had others where the price was just not competitive. We had others, you have to look at the security of the chips so that they can't be counterfeited. And some companies have better security than others, or more options than others. I think most companies will have like an infrared that you can embed into the chip. Others have RFID. You can do RFID, which is by far the greatest, I would say, but it's also extremely expensive. And I don't think any reasonable card room is going to invest and put all of their chips into RFID.
Yeah, just me personally, I'm saying this because it's fun for me to say. I feel like RFID is an old new technology that is going to continue to advance in casinos slowly and eventually possibly take over when it's less expensive and has more practical uses. But so it's interesting to even hear that there's chip manufacturers that are talking about it and that you're looking into that stuff even too. And this is the type of stuff that we don't get to know if we're not the ones doing this job, right? Like, we don't know what it takes. We don't know. Me and everybody watching, well, I take it back. I have a decent amount of insight because I was there for one of them, but still, it's not the same.